Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for the early hour and making it to this committee meeting today. We have two resolutions to hear, and we're going to start with House Resolution 1435, and I want to get Mike Vacker to present, if you will.
Sure. Thank you very much, Chairman Stevens. This is a simple urging resolution that fits hand in glove with the 250th anniversary of the state of Georgia. The Semi-Quincentenary Commission that was appointed by the governor back in the end of October. There are three members that are currently: Todd Gross, who's the chair of the Georgia Historical Society, Kelly Caudle, who is head of humanities, and Pat Wilson, who is the head of economic development. And there will be an effort moving forward to provide funding for this particular activity during the next fiscal year, not FY25, but probably in the AFY24 budget. We have a legacy of commemorating our history, particularly of the Revolutionary War. And I was commenting to Chairman Stevens this morning, 42 years ago, I was sitting in the Speaker's office with then Appropriations Chairman Joe Frank Harris talking about the semi-quincentenary of the founding of the state of Georgia, which was in 1993, I believe. 1983, I'm sorry. And we were asking about funding, and the Speaker said, well, how much money do you need? And our answer was, well, do you think we could get $50,000? And the answer was, sure. Well, we put on a statewide event with a primary focus in Savannah. The next year we came back in the General Assembly and asking the same question. We said, well, we really don't think we need any money. We've been putting this thing on, basically run out of Savannah, and they gave us another $100,000. And it was a very nice event. We have a very strong Revolutionary War history with the British capture of Savannah, the siege of Savannah, with Kettle Creek, with Ebenezer, with Augusta, and with Briar Creek. And of note at Briar Creek, there was one of the few women who was actually very intimately involved in the Revolutionary War, a lady by the name of Nancy Hart. And she was involved carrying a musket and shooting up people. In fact, there was legend that she had not invited, but 6 British soldiers invited themselves into her house and insisted that she fix her a turkey. She fixed them a turkey, which she did. And legend has it she fed them and then she killed them. And it was thought that this was just anecdotal until about 100 years later, a rail line was going past her cabin. And lo and behold, they unearthed a grave that had 6 bodies lined up side by side. So, needless to say, a very strong Revolutionary War and Civil War history. I'm representing the American Battlefield Trust today, and we have created the Vince Dooley Battlefield Preservation Trust. All of you know Coach Dooley because of his prowess on the field and with the University of Georgia for many, many years. But what some of you might not know, excuse me, is that he had a master's in history from Auburn, and he was a very avid historian and was an author as well, and was on the board of the American Battlefield Trust. So what we are asking is the passage of this urging resolution to simply bring attention to the fact that this state has joined 26 other states in passing a resolution to recognize what's called US 250, observing the semi-quincentenary of the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution. And within this will fit the American Battlefield Trust as well. That will be one of the components that will work to continue leaving a lasting legacy to the importance that these battlefields and these individuals played in our history. We, in fact, had 3 signers of the Declaration of Independence: George Walton, Lyman Hall, and Button Gwinnett. It's no coincidence that we have 3 counties that are named after those individuals. Button Gwinnett was the shortest lived of those. He was killed in a duel in Savannah with Lachlan McIntosh, and as such, his signature is one of the most valuable of any of the signers of the American Revolution, because there are very few of them. So with that, I would ask for your favorable consideration of this. We have a companion piece that was introduced on the Senate side that, because of the calendar, has not moved. And so I'll be very happy to answer any questions. You have a folder in your packet that is from the American Battlefield Trust, and a medallion that the Trust has done just as a little memorial keepsake of the efforts that we have undergoing. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Members, in light of the 9:30 Rules Committee, I'll ask if there are any questions. Yes, sir.
Hey, good morning. Thank you for bringing this. Just a couple of quick questions, if I
Good
could, Mr. Chairman. So, what happens to the land once it's purchased by the trust?
It generally is put into preservation, and much of the trust money can be used to gain matching federal funds. I think the state of Virginia has drawn down around $53 million in matching funds to preserve these properties. Kettle Creek is the most notable, where money from the ABT has been used to buy surrounding lands, and that now is it's a park, national park. And battlefield tourism is bringing in nearly $400 million a year in tourism dollars to this state alone.
So with this effort, the money go to purchase land that would then be managed by whom? The state or the
Either
federal
the
government?
state, or generally it would be the National Park Service, particularly if there's National Park Service money that is leveraged.
And then who actually manages the fund?
It would be managed by the American Battlefield Trust itself, which has been in existence since 1987. And it is a 501c3, C6, what have you, nonprofit trust.
And does that organization manage multiple funds, or?
Yes, they do, Matt. They have the ABT fund itself, but this would be a unique fund, the Dooley Preservation Trust, that would be focused exclusively on Georgia sites.
And to your knowledge, would that be the only fund of that type focused on Georgia?
Yes,
Okay.
to my knowledge, it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that Representative Smith or Representative Franklin? Yes, sir.
Just got a quick question. You mentioned the Battle of Briar Creek. Is that part? Will that be a part of this?
Yes, it will.
It will.
Yes,
So
it
they'll
will.
receive some money or management
We
from
would be
this?
looking for money to do more preservation on that site, yes.
That's great. Yes, right in my backyard. So
Right,
I appreciate
exactly.
that.
I have been, I'm a reformed Revolutionary War reenactor. I ran the reenactments of the siege of Savannah and the British capture of Savannah, and actually was part of the historical lead team for the 200th anniversary of the siege of Yorktown back in 1981. So the Revolutionary War part of this is very dear to my heart.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Any other member? If none, we're in a position to take a motion if there are any. We've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed, the motion passes and it moves on to rules.
Great, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Representative Bell.
And I look forward to your contributions.
HR 1252.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Chairman, esteemed colleagues of the Economic and Development Tourism Committee. How are you doing today? Today I present before you HR 1252 LC 5701118S. And this is a study committee to look at reducing dependency on BRICS nations. Currently in Georgia, we have a trade deficit between the BRICS nations over $75 billion. Currently, we're importing $123 billion from BRICS countries, and most notably, the deficit was with China and India. And whether it's in microchips, semiconductors, superconductors, aluminum alloy, agriculture, or car parts, these are things that we can reshore to America and reshore to Georgia to ensure that our nation and our community stay sovereign of foreign entities. Not to be xenophobic, but as we've seen with the breakdown of the supply chain, how indeed that we are dependent on other countries, and some countries and some of these countries particularly don't have the best interests for the American economy and the American people. And by simply approving this study committee, we'll look at boosting our Georgia economy as an economic stimulus to all Georgians so they can be engaged with the economic activities of the future, as well as ensure our economy is providing for all Georgians. As I stated before, I'm looking for a favorable passage to make sure that we, again, ensure Georgia's economy stays afloat, and not only stays afloat, but provides for the future. And again, whether it's semiconductors, superconductors, car parts, or agriculture. If you didn't know, currently we import 43% of onions, of the U.S. onions, through the port of Savannah. That's a huge number. What if we simply looked at reshoring that onion production to Georgia? What would that do for our Georgia farmers? What would that do for our Georgia citizens? So, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I ask for favorable passage of HR 1252. With that, I yield my time and for questions.
Members, and before we take members' questions, I got a call this morning, and there was a concern from the Georgia ports as far as the free trade aspect, and I don't think there's a member on this committee that doesn't understand the political side, and sometimes that gets muddled up with free trade. Nobody here condones what Russia does or China. By the same token, the Cold War was ended with free trade. So that was the concern just expressed with me, but I would love to hear from other members of the committee. I do believe that politically, the statement is perfect and dead on. The concern was for Amazon and Home Depot and those others that do trade, and possibly the message it might send, but I'll open up for any other questions from committee that might have some comments.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am. Pull your mic.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry, I was late.
223.
I didn't push my button.
There you go.
Okay. This is a study, am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So if it's a study with emphasis the things that you're talking about, the concerns that are expressed by the port, then that can be a part of what we really look into when you're talking about the study. I'm glad that you got the message this morning so we would know another area that needs to be addressed as far as the study committee can address as far as that. And I always encourage people to talk to those entities like the Georgia Port or what have you, to see what they're thinking and see how it can be incorporated into what you're doing.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
26.
Hey, Representative Bell, thank you for bringing this measure. Have you had an opportunity to speak with the Ports Authority at all?
I haven't this session.
What about the Department of Economic Development?
No, sir.
Okay. It seems to me that that something like this, while it's certainly got a kind of a noble goal, may be a little premature if we haven't spoken with the folks that actually do this on a daily basis. Would you like to come forward and provide some testimony? I don't mean to speak for the
More than
chair,
welcome.
but
Yes, sir. Pull up a chair.
No worries, no worries. Apologies. How you doing, Chairman?
Very well.
How's everybody doing?
okay.
My name is Simeon Nunley, I'm Chief of Staff of Representative Eric Bell, House District 75. So, you're right. We did speak with the ports. I did have a quick brief with the ports, and my apologies for not telling the representatives who was on campaign trail. And what the ports did say, Chairman, is that if we do it the correct way, we can have the logistical pipeline headed out of Savannah. And if we have the logistical pipeline headed out of Savannah, then that will continue to increase the GDP, right? So you're right as it relates to Amazon and all of those that's coming in. But if we headquartered it here, it was supersized. It would ramp the GDP actually. It would do way more better if we have those hubs here. For obvious reasons, you have revenue, tax spending, you have sales tax. The state will capture a tremendous amount of taxes, plus the business owners will thrive. As you were aware, so Vince Dooley was a really good friend of my mentor, Mr. J.T. Williams. We used to play golf in Waterfall, where he fell in the water called the Dooley's Ditch. I'm pretty sure y'all familiar with it. But for the most part, I understand that, and capitalizing on the Savannah will be even great for the resolution that you just passed on top of it. Right, that would be
So,
great.
I'm sorry, let me restate. So you have had a conversation with the Ports
Yes.
Authority specific to this resolution?
What I spoke with the authority, before we submitted the resolution, I did speak with the authority, right, and economic development as well. So while I was talking to them, I was asking them if we were to move and we was to actually do some type of, I look at it as building more logistical pipelines and manufacturers here. And if we do that,
Understand.
yes, I
Just
did speak on that.
just to, I guess, more succinctly to the question.
Yes, he spoke
I
to the
did-
board.
I
Did you speak with the Ports Authority specifically regarding this resolution?
I did speak
And
with
what
the
was
ports.
their feedback on the resolution itself?
When I talked to the ports about the resolution, like I talked to other members of GOP and the Democratic Party, when I presented to them over the ideology, the idea from the representative, it was always favorable because they understood the importance of it increasing the GDP at the ports. So correct, it was a favorable response.
So you received a favorable response from the Ports Authority and the Department of Economic
Absolutely,
Development?
especially Department of Economic Development. Correct.
I have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
Push the button. Okay. Oh, I'm tired.
All of it.
I think, again, I do think that it has to, because your statement regarding the port, too, has to play a role in what it is. If by passing this resolution, does that prevent us from getting together? I think that I've seen, well, I just think we all need to talk together in so many words to see what we really need to do. And I don't think that, I don't know who is on your committee, but Georgia Ports is very easy to talk to. And Mr. Chairman, did they say to you whether or not they were for or against, did they want us to pull back or look into it, or what did they say to you?
Their concerns were this morning that by passing the bill that it might send a signal that we're not open to trade
Okay.
for those countries that we have a political ideological difference in. And that was the concern. And their only issue, as you might imagine, with China
Yeah.
being a massive export and import with all of our poultry and pecans and the things that we send to these countries. They were more cautious about the signal it might send for trade,
Okay.
not anything to do with the politics.
Okay.
But again, number 12. Yes, Becky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative, for bringing the bill. In listening to this discussion, I'm wondering if the representative might be open to a friendly amendment of adding a representative from the Department of Economic Development and the Port Authority, adding 2 members to this commission.
I think that's a great idea, and I am willing to make that amendment.
Okay, so at the right time, Chair, I would be willing to make those amendments.
Okay, number 28.
Yeah, so this study would end December of this year, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And forgive me, I don't know what's the cost of it? It says it's in the code section 2818, but do you know that number, what it would be per person? There's 7 people on the board, on the committee, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you know how much that would be?
The exact cost I do not know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for the question.
Any other questions of committee? Then what's the pleasure of the committee?
if I'm using the right words. Here we go again. I move that we approve this resolution with the additions that have been added by our representative.
There is a motion to pass. Is there a second? We have a second. All those in favor of the motion will say aye.
Aye.
Oh, excuse me. Thank you. We do have an amendment to end discussion. Can you state your amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that we amend this LC 570118S on lines 30, after line 31, one member from the Department of Economic Development, and then add another, and then one member from the Ports Authority.
We have a motion for an amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
We'll have a vote on the amendment first. All in favor of the amendment will say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The amendment passes. Now we're back to the bill as amended on substitute to H.R. 1252, LC 570118S as amended. All those in favor? Yes, sir. Thank you. That brings the total number of members up to 9 for clarifications. So we have a substitute, an amended bill, if you will. All those in favor of the amended bill 1252 will say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? No. Let's have a show of hand. All those in favor say aye, or raise your hand, please. All those opposed? And the bill fails. Ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned, and we'll move on to the Senate rules.
Thank you, committee.